My name is Roberta Rincon. I am Director of Research for the Society of Women Engineers. I honestly have never been asked about my leadership style. I've been asked about like various characteristics or like strengths, right? I think one of the things that I would suggest and that I feel has helped me, I've done a couple of like Clifton strengths, identifying like your own strengths, the Myers-Briggs, your personality traits. And there's no good or bad, right? So I personally would recommend that you understand what you bring, what you offer, because we all have different and varying skill sets. We all have different strengths, things that we're most comfortable with, and it can also identify areas where maybe you maybe want to strengthen some of your skills. It's really eye-opening to bring together everybody and kind of see where people's strengths are and see how it helps with your how you connect and work with other people.
I think that a lot of times, there's this pressure to do everything yourself. Like you need to be
Mhm.
able to do it on your own, not make any mistakes while you're doing it, and seeing weaknesses or seeing where you're lacking as being a weakness rather than opening for collaboration with somebody else. It's inspiring to kind of hear the way that you've reframed that, not as, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses, but these are my strengths and these are areas where either I could try and develop strength, or I could see if I know anybody maybe who can help me, who are strong in these areas. As you were saying that, I was thinking this also really important when we're thinking about bringing more women into STEM, because if we can identify, these are the strengths that I bring to this STEM career, then we can build a bigger case for saying, I belong here. If the prevailing argument is, women don't belong in STEM, women don't have anything to contribute to STEM, then by identifying our strengths, we have a specific, you can almost be like, this is a list of these are the things that I bring to the table, and maybe you are lacking in these things that I can bring, therefore I deserve to be here. I deserve to be here anyway, but these are the things that I can actually do to better our workplace.
I think that's the quality to me that really stands out when you appreciate, you're a person who appreciates everybody on the team, recognizing that everybody has a different perspective and different background and skills and experience and education, and that their perspective is valuable. As women, we bring certain strengths. Just generally speaking, the research talks about how women as leaders tend to be more empathetic. They tend to be more adaptable, right? And they're more comfortable with change, and change is inevitable, right? I mean, it's just going to happen. And being able to adapt, I think, is a really important strength that women in particular bring in. And I've thought about the why. Why is that we as women, society sort of puts expectations and responsibilities on you to balance school and work and family. So you start your own family, you get married, the household tasks often fall to women, more so than men. It's just the gendered expectations, the gendered stereotypes. And so I've been thinking that maybe that's part of it all. Like we just learn over time to manage all of this in our brains. And so when change or something unexpected happens, we already have that skill built in to handle all of that. And it's a real strength because, like I said, change happens. That's the only sure thing, right? That things are not going to stay the same. And so if you are able to adapt, and you're flexible in that way and you can pivot, it's a real strength to have in the workplace.
I really like that you brought up adaptability because, I definitely have heard that women are more empathetic, but I never heard, that women are more adaptable. But you're right. STEM is all about making mistakes and failing and needing to adapt. So,
All about it.
and I've heard, I don't know if you've heard that men tend to be more problem focused, like fixing a problem. And while that can be very helpful in some cases, we also need to have that ability to pivot and not be aiming toward a goal, but aiming toward like a journey of understanding. Because there is not, a right way to adapt to something. There's
Mhm.
just a right mindset. And the mindset should be, there is another way. We haven't found it yet, but we can find it.
As a leader, that is also important because you're able to sort of take your team and kind of adjust and not be stuck and try to change things to meet what has been. You have to be willing to adjust and make those adjustments and bring people along with you. I know we kind of glossed over empathy, but I think that is an important characteristic and quality that women bring as well, because you're able to sort of put yourself in other people's shoes. I think that makes it easier to be more collaborative, to work with others, if you understand where they're coming from, and being just a good listener, but also making sure that you are being heard. That can sometimes be a bit of a challenge, but there are techniques that you can use to make sure that your contributions are appreciated. If you're in a place where they are not being appreciated and you are not getting the recognition or the being included, know that not every STEM workplace is like that. It really centers on leadership, right? And who is leading the team and ensuring that the voices around the table are heard and recognized and valued. I think that's how you create buy-in. I think that's how you keep people.
It's unfortunate that you have to acknowledge that there are some workspaces where the voices of the minority may not be as valued or as appreciated. We need to think about what can we do to remedy that? How can we make these workspaces more inclusive and value their all of their voices more? Empathy, especially, is this very ambiguous idea. It's hard to sort of quantify how we can move forward toward embracing that and making workspaces more inclusive.
At SWE, we talk a lot about fixing the system, not fixing the women. The changes that need to be made in STEM, a lot of that needs to happen within the organizations themselves and within the culture. You've probably heard about the glass ceiling. Women get to a certain point and then they can't get that upper, they can't reach the executive level. The broken rung is this theory that those barriers are happening much earlier. You get to just below that executive level, and you just don't have a lot of women. And it's because they've been held back earlier on. So one thing is, of course, getting more organizations to bring in more diverse leaders. My role at SWE is to manage their research activities. So identifying some of the challenges and barriers that women in STEM broadly experience, what is keeping us from diversifying the engineering and technology professions, and then identifying effective strategies, promising programs and practices that research has found to be effective in closing some of those gaps. We've been encouraging organizations to really look at their workplace processes, and try and mitigate the biases that exist in decision-making processes like hiring decisions, compensation decisions, performance evaluations. Just thinking about performance evaluations, how as an employee are you going to be prepared to move to that next level if you're not getting honest feedback, right? It's great to hear that you're doing a good job, but what you really want is you're doing a good job and here's what you need to do to get ready to move, to be promoted. That feedback isn't happening consistently across the board. So really encouraging organizations to look at some of these processes and make sure that the feedback, the decision making, what goes into it is not too subjective, but a bit more objective so that employees feel that it's fair.
Really, the root is changing the mindset and changing the culture. And of course, that's like the hardest thing to possibly change because you're changing how people think and how people interact, and that's really hard. I like that you brought in specific ways that companies can make a difference. I think once we can quantify something, then we can take steps towards achieving that. Because you're saying we want to be more diverse and inclusive, great. How are you going to do that? So do you have any ideas or strategies that maybe that you've implemented to make workspaces feel a bit more inclusive and to value all the opinions?
We really push for accountability and transparency. There's a lot of hesitancy from organizations to really do that. They put in place these different programs, or they say, that diversity is important, but they don't actually know what's working, whether the programs they put in place are working. And that requires collecting some of that data. I call them employee resource groups, right? How many people actually attend those, are part of that group? What are they doing? How much money is provided to support their activities? Are there leaders, higher up in the organization that are participating in some of these things? Because if you don't have leaders participating, then it doesn't seem like it's very important to the company, right? They exist so that companies can say they exist. But really, if it's important, you hear it from the leaders. You see the leaders there, right? You see the executives there. And that, I think, is where some of these organizations can really make change happen. If it's important to them, then they need to show that it is important and not just be able to just put it out on their website and say that they have this in place.
That makes me think of something from elementary school. When you're learning how to write, you're told to show, not tell. And I think that pretty much encapsulates what you said perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's true. We can do a lot to try and help organizations to create more welcoming spaces for everyone in STEM. As somebody who is just, just getting started in their career, for example, maybe you are a little bit hesitant to be sort of like pushing yourself in there, but finding those individuals within the workplace that value what you have to contribute, value your voice, I think is really critical. One thing that I would recommend is you don't have to limit yourself to just that one space. Connect with women leaders in other areas, or leaders in general in other spaces. Join an organization like the Society of Women Engineers, and go find those individuals that give you some of those tips on how to make sure that your point is made in a space. If you feel that you said something and it has been overlooked, following up, connecting with those in the individual one-on-one that you feel could help to push your idea forward. Just think about your own technical, specialization, your interest, your areas of interest, where you can engage with individuals who are at varying stages within their career and increase your network.
I noticed how you corrected yourself when you said you started by saying connect with women leaders in other spaces, but then you said connect with leaders. And
Yeah.
I liked how you did that, because I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot. That when we're empowering, when we're trying to bring more women into STEM, we just think, oh, we need women to empower women. But it's so much more than that, because we need everybody to be on board with empowering each other and making sure that spaces are inclusive and supportive of not just women, but of all genders and all ethnicities, all people who have not had a seat at the table before. So I just wanted to bring attention to that, because I really like that you, whether that was implicit or not,
I'm
recognize
glad you
that.
caught that. Yeah, no, because I think it's absolutely true. The fact of the matter is that women are underrepresented in leadership. And you can find really fantastic role models and leaders of all genders, races, backgrounds. You don't have to specifically look for somebody who looks like you. And I've had some really fantastic mentors and role models and leaders that I have connected with, managers that I've worked for who have not, they've been men and so supportive. Probably about 10 years ago, I was a bit frustrated that my supervisor was not hearing what I was saying with regards to what I wanted for my own career advancement. And so I met with sort of an individual that was at his level, and just got her thoughts on it. And it was not only beneficial in getting some of the tips that here's what you could try, here's what I would suggest, but also sometimes you just need somebody, you just need to hear that you deserve that, right? Like, you are qualified. This is what you bring. You should have this. I can think of times where I've had the opposite experience, where somebody has said something that has made me feel that maybe I'm not ready, maybe I'm not prepared. But there are plenty of people who know you recognize the strengths that you bring. Do not let somebody make you feel that you're not ready.
Going back to our topic of leadership, one of the key facets of a leader is understanding their own limitations and understanding where they need to improve. That's, I think, why mentorship is such a powerful thing for women, especially because, as you said here in your story, having someone else to help you reason through who you are can be so, so powerful.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Because I think we all tend to have a very harsh inner critic, but when we take a step out of our own head, especially if we get a chance to talk with somebody else who maybe has a different perspective, then that's really beneficial.
The other thing that I would say is it's okay to be scared. But don't let your fear hold you back. Whether you're a man, woman, whatever, we can be scared of feeling that we are not ready for something. And sometimes, you just you have to try. There's some research, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but men will apply for a job if they meet like 60% of the qualifications, whereas women will wait until they meet like everything, all of the required qualifications. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that you don't have to wait. Try and build up that courage to put your head in the ring and be considered for these opportunities, and addressing some of the areas where you feel you need to build your skills, recognizing that and figuring out ways that you can tackle that fear. Get to the point where the fear doesn't keep you from, moving forward. If you want to be a leader, don't wait until you feel like, okay, I'm ready. It's always a journey about moving forward, and you will encounter challenges, barriers, failures. I can't remember her name, but she's with Lean In. She talked about your career being like a jungle gym. And so sometimes you go up, sometimes you go sideways, sometimes you have to go down and around, to make your way up. And I've always liked that, because I think that's absolutely true. So just because you have to stop and move sideways or move down a little bit, it's not the end of it. There are places where your contributions would be welcome. And so make sure that where you are, wherever you end up, that you do feel that you are valued.
I love that. Thank you so, so much for your time today. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.